Hello and welcome everybody. Welcome back to the security spot. I know it's been a minute since I last made a video, especially a long form one. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but we don't need to worry about that. What I thought I'd do, and really I was thinking this for a while I was away from the channel, I was thinking what I should do is every Sunday or Monday I should make a sort of recap about the last week or so in cybersecurity news. Like, it would largely just be me reading off of it, but the more the news gets shared, the better, right? And what I wanted to start with today were certain articles, and I do get these from the Hacker News. It's a really good newsletter. You guys should subscribe to that. It's totally free. There's no paywalls or anything, to my knowledge at least. Yeah, it's just a really good source of information. We'll start with this. There's a new backdoor vulnerability that's exposing critical Linux systems to silent credential theft. And Linux is used in a lot of things, like a lot of important servers and stuff. So this is very important to worry about. Cybersecurity researchers have flagged a previously undocumented Linux backdoor dubbed Plague that has managed to evade detection for a year. The implant is built as a malicious PAM, pluggable authentication module, which enables attackers to silently bypass system authentication and gain persistent SSH access. Nextron Systems researcher Pierre-Henri Pézier said. I know I butchered that name. I'm so sorry. Now, for those of you who might not know, SSH, I covered this in a Port Shorts episode a while back. SSH is essentially a protocol that allows you to remotely access any system. So, if I know the IP address, know the username and password login for a certain system, like say it's a server in a different country, I can use SSH on my own computer to not only access it, but also operate on it remotely. That's the thing about cybercrime. You don't need to get out of your house to do it. You can do it just by sitting around at home if you're skilled enough, or if the other guy is vulnerable enough. It's really a scale. I'll discuss that in another video. Pluggable authentication modules refers to a suite of shared libraries used to manage user authentication to applications and services in Linux and Unix-based systems. Given that PAM modules are loaded into privileged authentication processes, a rogue PAM can enable theft of user credentials, bypass authentication checks, and remain undetected by security tools. The cybersecurity company said it uncovered multiple Plague artifacts uploaded to VirusTotal since July 29th, 2024. That's like a little over a year ago. So that's actually pretty recent, with none of them detected by anti-malware engines as malicious. What's more, the presence of several samples signals active development of the malware by the unknown threat actors behind it. Plague boasts of 4 prominent features: static credentials to allow covert access, resist analysis, and reverse engineering using anti-debugging and string obfuscation, and enhanced stealth by erasing evidence of an SSH session. So, this Plague thing, it basically has credentials that will let you get in no matter what. It can resist analysis and any reverse engineering by obfuscating what's been done, and by using anti-debugging. and it can make it so that the SSH session in which they operated isn't even noticed. Like, it might not even be logged, which is dangerous because logs are what you always turn to in these sorts of situations. This, in turn, is accomplished by unsetting environment variables such as SSH connection and SSH client using unsetven and redirecting his file to devnull to prevent shell command logging in order otherwise avoid leaving an audit trail. Plague integrates deeply into the authentication stack, survives system updates, and leaves almost no forensic traces, Pezio noted. Combined with layered obfuscation and environment tampering, this makes it exceptionally hard to detect using traditional tools. So yeah, this is another example. You'll always see these. If you're getting into cyber, you might think it's overwhelming. I mean, I certainly do. I'm still like fresh. I am not really part of the cyber field as anything other than a student. But what we're taught and what you will be taught, whether you go to college, whether you go to try hack me, whatever, what they will teach you is to use tools like logs to always to detect these things because everything gets logged, everything. So the fact that something isn't getting logged, that's a new unprecedented thing that we have to contend with, and you'll often see unprecedented things going on in cyber because as technology changes, new methods to use that technology are also created. So we always have to be on guard. We're always on the back foot in cybersecurity. The attackers are always the ones who have the upper hand simply because we're always reacting to them. It's another really big struggle with cybersecurity. But that'll do it for this article. Let's go to the next one. Cursor AI code editor fixed a flaw that allowed attackers to run commands via prompt injection. Cybersecurity researchers have disclosed a now patched high severity security flaw in Cursor, a popular AI code editor that could result in remote code execution. So yeah, this is one of the problems we're facing today with coding. Vibe coding, they call it, where you use AI to code stuff because you yourself may not know or may not have the skill to code, or you do have the skill, you just want to use AI to make your life easier, which everyone likes their life easier. But the thing with AI is, it works off of what you, the human, knows. AI is not all-knowing. It can like read over your mistakes. It can edit it. Like, it can edit your book, but it cannot write your book for you. If you try to make it write your book for you, it's not going to be a good story. Some people might enjoy it, but the problems will be easy to spot. It's the same thing with stuff like with coding. There was actually a story I remember about this app that was for women to like basically vet men to each other, and it was completely vibe coded. AI did all the coding, and then like the data of thousands of women got stolen because there were no security. There was like little to no security in the app's coding. I believe it was called T. If anyone wants to read more about that, let me know. Cursor, cybersecurity researchers have disclosed a now patched high-severity security flaw in Cursor, a popular AI code editor that could result in remote code execution. The vulnerability tracked as, and this is its ID number, In fact, I'll put this up here just so we can see. Yeah, there's a GitHub page. Query code execution from cursor file through prompt injection. Yeah. You can actually find a lot of viruses on GitHub. Like, there's old viruses like Sub 7 that are on here. But yeah, now that we've covered that, let's go back to the news. We'll look at that one later, sorry. The vulnerability tracked as CVE 2025-54135, CVSS score 8.6, has been addressed in version 1.3 released on July 29th, 2025. That was last week. It has been codenamed Execute by AIM Labs, which previously disclosed Echo Leak. Cursor runs with developer-level privileges, and when paired with an MCP server that fetches untrusted external data, that data can redirect the agent's control flow and exploit those privileges, the AIM Labs team said in a report shared with the Hacker News. By feeding poisoned data to the agent via MCP, an attacker can gain full remote code execution under the user privileges and achieve any number of things, including opportunities for ransomware, data theft, AI manipulation, and hallucinations, etc. So when they say hallucinations, they mean the AI hallucinating, where like it starts forgetting stuff because This oftentimes happens when you carry on a long conversation with ChatGPT. It's worse with Gemini, but it still happens with all the models. It'll hallucinate, it'll say something completely unrelated, it'll say something that makes it seem like it forgot what you told it earlier, that sort of thing. That's what AI hallucinations means. In other words, the remote code execution can be triggered by a single externally hosted prompt injection that silently rewrites the cursor MCP JSON file and runs attacker-controlled commands. The vulnerability is similar to Echo Leak in that the tools, which are exposed by Model Control Protocol MCP servers for use by AI models, and facilitate interaction with external systems such as querying databases or invoking APIs, could fetch untrusted data that can poison the agent's expected behavior. Specifically, AIM Security found that the MCP JSON file used to configure custom MCP servers in Cursor can trigger the execution of any new entry, like adding a Slack MCP server, without requiring any confirmation. This auto-run mode is particularly dangerous because it can lead to the automatic execution of a malicious payload that's injected by the attacker via Slack message. For those of you who don't know, Slack is it's like Discord but for people with jobs. Slack is like a corporate Discord, I guess. It's a chatting app for people who work at the same place. They might not want to make a Discord server for that. They might not want to have a WhatsApp group. They might not want to chat on other apps like that. The attack sequence proceeds as follows. User adds Slack MCP server via Cursor UI. Attacker posts message in a public Slack channel with the command injection payload. Victim opens up a new chat and asks Cursor's agent to use the newly configured Slack MCP server to summarize their messages in a prompt. Use Slack tools to summarize my message. The agent encounters a specially crafted message designed to inject malicious commands to its context. For instance, allowing the configuration file to add another MCP server containing a rogue instruction. Touch file containing RCE payload. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Linux, the touch command is used to create files. The touch command is used to create files, and most servers will run on some form of Linux. Like, at my job, I work with motherboards that are going to be used in AI. I'm a motherboard tester for NVIDIA servers. What we do is, after we physically assemble the board and put them into a server rack, we essentially just we also have to test it on like straight Linux, like straight command prompts and stuff. It's nothing too tough, but I just thought I'd mention that to point out that servers do typically run on Linux. The core cause of the flaw is that new entries to the global MCP JSON file are starting automatically, AIM Security said. Even if the edit is rejected, the code execution had already happened. The entire attack is noteworthy for its simplicity, but it also highlights how AI-assisted tools can open up new attack surfaces when processing external content. In this case, any third-party MCP server. As AI agents keep bridging external, internal, and interactive worlds, security models must assume external conflict may affect the agent runtime and monitor any hop, the company added. Version 1.3 of Cursor also addresses another issue with auto-run mode that can easily circumvent the platform's deny list-based protections using methods like base64 encoding shell scripts and encoding shell commands within quotes, like this one here, to execute unsafe commands. So this platform uses a deny list. A deny list is like, some of you may be familiar with an allow list. An allow list is like you have a list of websites that are allowed and everything else is just not allowed. It's like having a virtual bouncer. Here the deny list is like that, but that means everything is allowed and only certain sites are denied, which I personally think is a lot more annoying for security. Like, it might be easier to be like, oh, I don't want this site, deny it. But then, like, what if the site's bad and you already visited? Yeah, you can put it on the deny list, but it doesn't change that someone's visited it and possibly gotten a virus on the system. That's just my 2 cents, though. Following responsible disclosure by the / research team, Cursor is taking the step of altogether deprecating the deny list feature for auto-run in favor of an allows. Yeah, see what I tell you. Allow lists are typically more secure, at least as far as I've seen. But responsible disclosure, that is something that in cybersecurity you'll have to get used to. I know some of you want to do this for the Mr. Robot stuff, but pen testing, SOC analyst, blue team, all this stuff is a lot of paperwork. You have to document as much as possible. That's what responsible disclosure is. You have to, and hacking groups will also, I say hacking groups, I mean like benevolent hacking groups, like the Guild of the Grumpy Old Hackers. They're a group based in, I believe, the Netherlands. They are typically they are a bunch of hackers who have like been in the scene for decades now. They typically do a responsible disclosure after finding viruses, finding issues. They're pretty famous for not once but twice finding out the password to Donald Trump's Twitter account. It's an interesting story. There's a whole Darknet Diaries episode on them. I think there's actually 2. Darknet Diaries, by the way, is a really good podcast for those of you who want to learn more about cybersecurity, whether it's the history or the current situation. It's a good podcast. Now, don't expect the built-in security solutions provided by vibe coding platforms to be comprehensive or foolproof. Researchers Mustafa Namne and Mika Gold said. Sorry, I butchered your last name, Mustafa. They said the onus is on end-user organizations to ensure agentic systems are equipped with proper guardrails. Yeah, that's what I want to highlight. At the end of the day, the end user is responsible for security as well. I don't believe that the onus will always be on end users, but I do believe a fair bit of it, like, for example, if you get hacked because Google had a vulnerability that allowed malicious actors to easily find your password, that's on them. But at the same time, if your password was, like, I don't know, 1234, you probably wouldn't be allowed to have that in this day and age. But for argument's sake, if your password was something easy like that, or if it was a word like muffin, then, like, it's a little bit your fault. A little bit. I'm not trying to take away blame from the corporation. And this isn't really talking about end users as individuals. It's talking about end users as organizations. So, like, businesses that say they purchase AWS to run their systems, to run their cloud systems, that would make them an end user organization. And AWS would be the vendor situation. Would be the vendor organization, excuse me. The disclosure comes as Hidden Layer also found that Cursor's ineffective denialist approach can be weaponized by embedding hidden malicious instructions with a GitHub README file, allowing an attacker to steal API keys, SSH credentials, and even run blocked system commands. When the victim viewed the project on GitHub, the prompt injection was not visible, and they asked Cursor to git clone the project and help them set it up. A common occurrence for an IDE-based agentic system. Researchers Casimir Scholes, Kenneth Young, and Tom Bonner noted. However, after cloning the project and reviewing the README file to see the instructions to set up the project, the prompt injection took over the AI model and forced it to use the grep tool to find any keys in the user's workspace for exfiltrating the keys with curl. Hindler said also found additional weaknesses that could be abused to leak Cursor system prompt by overriding the base URL provided for OpenAI API requests to a proxied model, as well as exfiltrate a user's private SSH keys by leveraging two benign tools, read file and create diagram, in what's called a tool combination attack. This essentially involves the prompt inserting a prompt injection command within a GitHub README file that's parsed by Cursor when the victim asks the code editor to summarize the file, resulting in the execution of the command. The hidden instruction, for its part, uses the read file tool to read private SSH keys belonging to the user, then utilizes the create diagram tool to exfiltrate the keys to an attack-controlled webhook site URL. All the identified shortcomings have been remediated by Cursor in version 1.3. News of various vulnerabilities in Cursor comes as Tracebit devised an attack targeting Google's Gemini CLI, an open-source command line tool fine-tuned for coding tasks that exploit a default configuration of the tool to surreptitiously exfiltrate sensitive data to an attacker-controlled server using curl. Like observed in the case of Cursor, The attack requires the victim to 1. Instruct Gemini CLI to interact with an attacker-created GitHub codebase containing a nefarious indirect prompt injection in the Gemini.md context file, and 2. Add a benign command to an allow list, like grep. Prompt injection targeting these elements together with significant validation and display issues within Gemini CLI could cause undetectable arbitrary code execution, Tracebit founder and CTO Sam Cox said. To mitigate the risk posed by the attack, Gemini CLI users are advised to upgrade their installations to version 0.1.14, which shipped on July 25th, 2025. Alright. I am going to make a cut here because I need to drink some water. Alright, I'm back. So, here we're going to talk about North Korean hackers using job lures, cloud account access, and malware to steal millions in crypto. The North Korean linked threat actor known as Unk4899 has been attributed to attacks targeting 2 different organizations by approaching their employees via LinkedIn and Telegram. Under the guise of freelance opportunities for software development work, Unk4899 leveraged social engineering techniques to successfully convince the targeted employees to execute malicious Docker containers in their respective workstations. Google's cloud division said in its Cloud Threat Horizons report for H2 2025. Yeah, so this is a thing that's been going on for a while now. A lot of the job postings you'll see on LinkedIn, on Indeed, any of these sites, that like the job market is bad. We all know this. It's making people more desperate. A lot of these jobs are like not really open positions. Companies just post them to show, to project the idea of growth, and they don't want to hire anyone. We know all these things, but what that does is that makes room for other scammers like our friend here, Unk4899, to ruin people who are either trying to move up in the world a little, or barring that, they just want some form of employment in this economy. Yeah, this is social engineering is probably the most dangerous tool in a hacker's playbook. Because social engineering, you can create all the technological safeguards you want. People may or may not find a way to get past those. Most won't. But social engineering, you could have someone who's got the most technically illiterate person in the world, but if they know how to talk to people, they know how to manipulate them into doing what they want. They can bring down your entire organization and steal all of your money. Like, you can get people to hand over their login credentials, to do this, to do that. It's scary. Unk4899 overlaps with activity tracked under the monikers Jade Sweet, Puck Chong, Slow Pisces, and Trader. Active since at least 2020, the state-sponsored actor is known for its targeting of cryptocurrency and blockchain industries. Notably, the hacking group has been implicated in significant cryptocurrency heists, including that of Axie Infinity. In March 2022, he made 625 million off of that one. DMM Bitcoin in May 2024. So a little over a year ago, $308 million off of that, and Bybit in February 2025. 1.4 billion just a couple months ago. Another example that highlights its sophistication is the suspected exploitation of Jump Cloud's infrastructure to target downstream customers within the cryptocurrency vertical. According to DTEX, Trader is affiliated with the 3rd Bureau or Department of North Korea's Reconnaissance General Bureau and is the most prolific of any of the Pyongyang hacking groups when it comes to cryptocurrency theft. Attacks mounted by the threat actor have entailed leveraging job-themed lures or uploading malicious NPM packages and then approaching employees at target companies with a lucrative opportunity or asking them to collaborate on a GitHub project that would then lead to the execution of the rogue NPM libraries. So what we have here is the diagram. This is essentially the social engineering playbook for hackers. Excuse me, just had to drink some water. So I'll pull this up in a new tab. Yeah, there we go. The initial compromise. The social engineering. The initial compromise starts when the social engineering for a fake job opportunity happens. So like you'll be approached for a job opportunity like on LinkedIn or Telegram or what have you about, hey, you want to make like 6 figures doing work that you love, doing this, that. It's going to be something that sounds a little too good to be true, but sounds normal enough. Oftentimes your scam senses will be pinging. You'll be like, oh my god, this is going to be weird. But sometimes they won't. Anybody can get scammed. That's what I want to stress here. I know sometimes we see stories about like the Nigerian prince thing and we think, gosh, how could these morons get scammed like that? Anybody can get scammed. I could get scammed. You could get scammed. Some of the smartest people in the world could get scammed. Now, anyways, there's a social engineering for a fake job opportunity, and generally if you accept, or even if you say I need to think about it, they will send you a file and then they'll download and conduct the execution of a malicious Docker container. Once they establish a foothold, by downloading and executing additional payloads onto the victim's host. So they'll send more viruses, more bad files, more malicious stuff on there. Then there's these 2 viruses, Mazewire and Glass Cannon. I don't truly know what they do. Full disclosure. And then after that, once they're in, they're going to escalate their privileges. So what they're going to do is take the victim's machine, and in an organization, typically you'll have user roles. Like sometimes you might have a user role of admin in a certain system. Sometimes you might just be a user and you have restricted privileges, like you can't open up this program or that program, and they'll say you can't do it without admin privileges. It'll take those admin privileges and give them to your machine, but you won't get to enjoy them. And when it does that, it steals session cookies to access an AWS environment, which bypasses multi-factor authentication restrictions. Yeah, cookies can help you bypass MFA because the because the cookies are essentially like timestamps. Like you visit a website, you say like always remember. There's a cookie that's always doing the remembering. And then internal reconnaissance. Once it does that, once they do that, once they escalate your privilege when they're in, they do internal reconnaissance by enumerating files and folders, which include credentials from the victim's workstation. Then it does the enumeration of AWS resources. Then it does the enumeration of the EKS environment via Kubernetes. And then they take over the Slack, and then they get in with Slack. Then after they escalate their privilege and do the internal reconnaissance, they'll move laterally. They'll use stolen session cookies to gain access to the Slack workspace. They'll do the remote code execution on EKS pods with Kubernetes. And then they'll try to maintain a presence long after that with by always having a backdoor open on the victim's workstation. And occasionally they'll execute more payloads, and they'll continue to use these stolen session cookies and renew them on the victim's workstation after every expiration so they can keep accessing the AWS environment. Then after that, they'll complete their mission. They'll upload malicious versions of JavaScript files on the target S3. That's part of AWS. It's a storage system. And then after that, they'll steal all the cryptocurrency they can. Then they'll begin cleanup by restoring benign versions of the JavaScript files, log out of Slack, and delete the backdoor from the victim workstation so that you never know they were there. Sort of like you didn't see anything, you know? And then now we're back here. Trader has demonstrated, a sustained interest in cloud-centric and cloud-adjacent attack surfaces, often with a final goal of compromising companies that are customers of cloud platforms rather than the platforms themselves. Cloud security firm Wiz said in a detailed report on Trader this week. The attacks observed by Google Cloud targeted the respective organizations' Google Cloud and AWS environments, which paved the way for a downloader called Glasscan. Oh, there we go. That's then used to serve backdoors like Plot Twist and Mazewire that can establish connections with an attacking controlled space. So yeah, these were listed on the diagram. Glasscannon is a downloader that allows them to put in place these backdoors called Plot Twist and Mazewire that allow them to keep access to the victim's workstation with their servers. In the incident involving the Google Cloud environment, the threat actors have been found to employ stolen credentials to interact remotely using Google Cloud command line interface over an anonymous VPN service, carrying out extensive reconnaissance and credential theft activities. However, they were thwarted in their efforts due to the MFA configuration applied to the victim's credentials. Unk4899, I'm just going to call him Unk, eventually determined the victim's account had administrative privileges to the Google Cloud project and disable the MFA requirements, Google said. After successfully gaining access to the targeted resources, they immediately re-enabled MFA to evade detection. The intrusion targeting the second victim's AWS environment is said to have followed a similar playbook, only this time the attackers used long-term access keys obtained from an AWS credential file to interact remotely via the AWS command line. Although the threat actors ran into access control roadblocks that prevented them from performing any sensitive actions, Google said it found evidence that likely indicated the theft of the user's session cookies. These cookies were then used to identify relevant CloudFront configurations in S3 buckets. Unk leveraged the inherent administrative permissions applied to their access to upload and replace existing JavaScript files with those containing malicious code, which were designed to manipulate cryptocurrency functions and trigger a transaction with the cryptocurrency wallet of a target organization, according to Google. The attacks in both cases ended with the threat actors successfully withdrawing several million worth of cryptocurrency, the company added. The development comes as Sonatype said it flagged and blocked 234 unique malware, NPM, and Python packages attributed to North Korea's Lazarus Group between January and July 2025. Some of these libraries are configured to drop a known credential stealer referred to as Beavertail, which is associated with a long-running campaign dubbed Contagious Interview. These packages mimic popular developer tools but function as espionage implants designed to steal secrets, profile hosts, and open persistent backdoors into critical infrastructure, the software supply chain security firm said. The surge of activity in H1 2025 demonstrates a strategic pivot. Lazarus is now embedding malware directly into open source package registries, namely NPM and Python, at an alarming rate. Update. Veracode, in a new analysis published on July 31st, 2025, said it uncovered a dozen malicious packages published by North Korean threat actors as part of a cryptocurrency stealing campaign. The malware is assessed to be a variant of Beavertail, capable of harvesting system information, exfiltrating data from cryptocurrency wallet apps and browser extensions, and downloading additional Python payloads. None of the identified packages are available for download from NPM. Cut out the last few minutes of me reading this article because I want to show you all something. This article was likely written by AI, or at least part of it was. And the reason I know that is because read it, it sounds very robotic. It sounds kind of like an ad. Like it's really talking it up. So then you see the subheading. ChatGPT and all AI really, they love these subheadings, bullet points, all of that. So yeah, that's how you can spot an AI written article. I apologize for being kind of slow to do that. But yeah, you see these bullet points, you see subheadings. It's still a good read. It's still important to read about how AI is being used in cybersecurity. That's why I selected this article to read off in this video. But it's not. But it is written by AI, and a lot of it is just an ad for Sentinel-1 and Singularity. So yeah, next article. experts detect a multi-layer redirect tactic used to steal Microsoft 365 login credentials. Cybersecurity researchers have disclosed details of a new phishing campaign that conceals malicious payloads by abusing link wrapping services from Proofpoint and Intermedia to bypass defenses. Link wrapping is designed by vendors like Proofpoint to protect users by routing all clicked URLs to a scanning service, allowing them to block known malicious destinations at the moment of click. While this is effective against known threats, attacks can still succeed if the wrapped link has been flagged by the scanner at click time. The activity observed over the last 2 months once again illustrates how threat actors find different ways to leverage legitimate features and trusted tools to their advantage and perform malicious actions, which in this case is redirecting victims to Microsoft 365 phishing pages. It's noteworthy that the abuse of link wrapping involves the attackers gaining unauthorized access to email accounts that already use the feature within an organization. So any email message containing a malicious URL sent from that account is automatically rewritten with the wrapped link. Another important aspect concerns what Cloudflare calls multi-tiered redirect abuse, in which the threat actors first cloak their malicious links using a URL shortening service like Bitly, and then send the shortened link in an email message via a Proofpoint secured account, causing it to be obscured a second time. This behavior effectively creates a redirection chain where the URL passes through 2 levels of obfuscation: Bitly and Proofpoint's URL defense, before taking the victim to the phishing page. In the attacks observed by the web infrastructure company, the phishing messages masquerade as voicemail notifications, which urge recipients to click on a link to listen to them, ultimately directing them to a bogus Microsoft 365 phishing page designed to capture credentials. Alternate infection chains employ the same techniques in emails that notify users of a supposed document received on Microsoft Teams and tricking them into clicking on booby-trapped hyperlinks. A third variation of these techniques, of these attacks, impersonates Teams in emails, claiming that they have unread messages and they can click on the Reply in Teams button embedded in the messages and redirect them to credential harvesting pages. So what you're seeing is a lot of these are using social engineering to get people to click on links. So earlier in the video, when we were discussing the North Korea thing, the North Korea hacker Unk4899, they largely used social engineering to get people's information. They stole a lot of people's data and cryptocurrency. It all started with social engineering, with telling people, hey, just click on this, just download this. That's what's going on here. You've got people telling them, whether on the phone through vishing, which is phishing but like vocally on the phone, getting people to click on links, or doing the same thing in emails, like hey, here's a document that's sent for you. You click on it because it's in Microsoft Teams. Someone from work probably sent it, and it ends up being a booby-trapped hyperlink. And then we have another thing on emails, clicking on the Reply in Teams button but that button is changed to redirect them to credential harvesting pages. In each of these situations, there's some form of social engineering going on. That's the important takeaway here, I think. Social engineering, I would say, while it is still a bit of a user problem, this is also a technology problem, I think. Because these social engineering attacks, guarding against social engineering attacks is more difficult because not everybody is going to possess the same technological literacy, and not everyone is going to be as hyper paranoid. But at the same time, the fact that that these guys managed to create a redirection on a reply in Teams button, all this stuff, that's a technology issue. And then there's also technology issues you could argue, like bogus links being undetected by the system before they're sent. But that's a discussion for another time. Speaking of phishing, I am going to make a video soon on why phishing training needs to be improved and refined to catch up with 2020 with the 2020s, specifically in the way that phishing emails are spotted, I guess. But yeah, we'll talk about that later. Anyways, by cloaking malicious destinations with legitimate URL, proof point email protection URLs, these phishing campaigns abuse trusted link wrapping services, and that significantly increases the likelihood of a successful attack. When contacted by the Hacker News for comment, Proofpoint said it's aware of threat actors abusing these URL redirects and URL protection in ongoing phishing campaigns, and that's a technique the company has observed from multiple security service providers who employ similar email protection and URL rewrite solutions like Cisco and Sophos. The enterprise security firm also knows that flags these campaigns via behavioral AI detection engine and messages bearing such URLs are discarded, and the final URLs at the end of the redirect chain are blocked to prevent exploitation. In these campaigns, a threat actor can either abuse an open redirect to link to a rewritten URL or compromise an email account that belongs to some type of email protection, the Proofpoint threat researchers said. Then they send an email with a phishing link to the account they've compromised. A security service rewrites the URL, and the threat actor makes sure the link is not blocked. Then the threat actor will take the rewritten URL and include it in various redirect chains. Whenever threat actors choose to use a rewritten URL from any security service, including Proofpoint, it means that as soon as the security service blocks the final URL, the entire attack chain will be blocked for every recipient of the campaign, whether the recipient was a customer of the service or not. So yeah, this is what I was talking about earlier. We can leverage technology to mitigate social engineering attacks, but at the same time, because these URLs are coming from trusted URL wrapping sources, that allows for an enhanced social engineering attack, because people are automatically thinking, yeah, this is already protected, this is secure. And how are they supposed to know whether it is or isn't, you know? So, yeah, that's what I was getting at earlier. Social engineering, I would say, is not just a user problem, it is also a technology problem. Anyways, the development comes amid a spike in phishing attacks that weaponize scalable vector graphics, files to get around traditional anti-spam and anti-phishing protections and initiate multi-stage malware infections. Unlike JPEG or PNG files, SVG files are written in XML and support JavaScript and HTML code. The New Jersey Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Cell said last month they can contain scripts, hyperlinks, and interactive elements, all of which can be exploited by embedding malicious code within these harmless files. Phishing campaigns have also been observed embedding fake Zoom video conferencing emails and links, that when clicked trigger a redirection chain to a fake page that mimics a realistic looking interface, after which they are served a meeting connection timed out message and taken to a phishing page that prompts them to enter their credentials to rejoin the meeting. And unfortunately, instead of rejoining, the victim's credentials, their IP address, country, and region are all exfiltrated via Telegram, which is a messaging app notorious for secure encrypted communications and inevitably sent to the threat actor, Cofence said in a recent report. So yeah, this is an attack that's employing both technology that people are having to deal with. They're having to patch out this vulnerability and incorporate social engineering tactics. The human being is the most difficult part of cybersecurity because you have to work around why we invented this technology in the first place, so that we could make our lives easier. But then with the technology comes problems with the technology, and eventually you see the solution is to just give up and camp out in the woods. But if you don't want to do that, you have to balance the scales between security and convenience. And it's hard to do that here. Like here, they're leveraging the very trust that people have in a secure technology to like further engage in social engineering tactics. Like if I see something from someone I trust, and it's from a service I trust, it's been vetted from a service that I've come to trust. Knowing all of that, I'm not going to think twice about what I'm clicking. A lot of people won't. But yeah, that'll do it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Sorry this is so long. I'm thinking next week I'll try and break this up a little more because there's a lot of video ideas I have. I'm thinking when my schedule allows it, I'm going to put this on Monday just because I want to call it Malicious Mondays. But for right now, I'll just call it Security Sunday. But yeah, I'm also thinking of sort of making like videos of me studying Python. You guys can learn along with me. There'll be like walkthroughs. Like I'll go on to W3 schools. Python is very much worth learning in cybersecurity. I once heard it referred to as the glue we use for everything around here. But yeah, it's good to know any sort of scripting language, you know? What is the correct way to declare a Python variable? Excellent, nice. So yeah, I'm thinking I'll show more videos of me learning Python, of me learning a bunch of stuff. I'm thinking I'll make one of those home lab tutorials, because you can never have too many tutorials, right? If the internet's taught me anything, there's like a surplus of tutorials on just about anything in the world. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. This has been the Security Spot. New content is coming soon. I know that it's been a long time since I last posted, but don't worry, I'm here now. Anyways, you all have a great day, stay safe, and I'll see you all next time.